Hello everyone, how's it going? And welcome to episode 2 of my little mini series around the new runes that came out for Wild Rift patch 4.3. In this video, we're going to be checking out the precision runes, the minor runes that are mainly used by AD carries down in the duo lane or bruisers up in the Baron lane or in the jungle. These are really nice set of runes. Most of these runes are very similar to what they were before, or they're pretty much the same. So this video is a little bit shorter than the other minor rune trees like Domination, Resolve and Inspiration. But as always, if you want to check out the other new runes, check out the playlist down below, which will be able to see all the new runes that I'll be setting out and be releasing over the next few days. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in just a second. For the first tree of minor runes, let's first take a look at precision. Now, precision are a set of runes that help champions that are in continuous combat. So champions that want to be in combat for a very long amount of time. You're going to see some very familiar runes here, especially in the first row or the first selection of 3 runes. We have Brutal, Triumph and Gathering Storm. Brutal still does the same. Basic attacks deal 12 to 19 bonus adaptive damage based on level. Damage on hit against champions, still the same as before. Triumph has changed ever so slightly. Triumph now only gives you healing and doesn't give you the damage anymore. So champion takedowns restore 10% of your lost health, but now it also restores mana and energy. So instead of having the restore health and the damage when champions are low on health, it now has the restore health, restore mana and restore energy. So really good for them bruisers that want a little bit of sustain when they get takedowns. And remember, takedowns count as kills and assists. Then we have Gathering Storm. Again, the same rune as before, nothing has changed. You gain every 3 minutes, you gain adaptive AD or AP damage. Adaptive means whatever stat you have the most of. So if you're an AP champion, but a lot of AP items, you'll get the AP damage with Gathering Storm. If you're an AD champion that builds AD items, then you'll get the AD stats. Now you can tell here that it totals up to 2, 5, 9, and 14 for AD, but for AP it's 4, 10, 18, 28, and that will keep on going up and up. So it goes up by around 2 or 3 every single time, but it goes up increasingly every time. So the more minutes under the belt, the more increasing AP or AD you'll get. Now this rune is a lot better on AP champions than AD champions because you get so much more. At 3, 6, 9, 12, at 12 minutes you get 14 AD or 28 AP. So you get a lot more AP than AD, so it's still really good for some AP champions. But that's it pretty much for the first row. Now we take a look at the second row, which introduces 2 new runes to Wild Rift. First one is at the bottom there. We got Coup De Grace, which is not that difficult to understand. When an enemy champion has less than 40% health, you deal 7% bonus adaptive damage, and it increases damage dealt to champions with low health. So pretty simple to understand. Basically, when champions are low on health, you deal bonus adaptive damage. This is really good against champions, against enemies that have very low base health, because you're going to get them to below 40% health a lot quicker, which means you're going to be able to deal the bonus adaptive damage. Now the bonus adaptive damage means that you'll be dealing bonus AP or AD adaptive damage, so it still can be affected by armor and magic resist, but still really good rune overall to take if you're a champion that deals a lot of damage and that wants a lot of good execution, so like assassins and AD carries, and if you're against champions that don't have a lot of health. Then on the flip side, you have Giant Slayer, which is still the same rune as before, but it's a rune that you want to take if the enemy champions have a lot of bruisers and tanks. So Giant Slayer deals bonus damage based on the enemy's champion's bonus health. So up to 14% the damage when the enemy champion has 700 bonus health. So for example, if the enemy champion has 350 bonus health, you gain 7% bonus damage, and so on and so forth. So the amount of bonus damage you'll be getting depends on how much bonus health enemy champions they're dealing. Now bonus health is things, health that comes from runes and also items. It doesn't count towards their base health. So if you see that their base health is 3,000 for example, they might not actually have any bonus health at all. That's just their base health. Their bonus health again comes from items, so items like Warmogs, Divine Sunderer, Black Cleaver, or runes, things like Overgrowth, one of the new runes we'll be taking a look at a little bit later on with the Resolve tree. Then for the last rune in the third row, we have Last Stand, which again is kind of the opposite to Coup De Grace in the end. So instead of dealing damage when the enemies are low on health, this time you're going to be dealing bonus damage when you are low on health. So when health is lower than 60%, attacks launches against enemy champions and deal 5 to 11% bonus adaptive damage. Now it grants a maximum bonus damage when your health is lower than 30%. So for example, when you're at 60% health, you'll get 5% damage. When you're at 30% health, you'll gain 11% bonus damage. So basically, every 5% of health that you lose, you gain 1% damage between the 60% health and the 30% health. So, 30% health, you get 11% bonus of damage, which can be pretty big. And you're probably thinking, why would you take Coup De Grace when you could take Last Stand? Now, Last Stand most of the time is really good for bruisers or sometimes even tanks, because even though they drop low on health, whether it's 60% of health or 30% health, it still adds up with your base health. So say, for example, if you have like 1,000, bonus health, for example, if it's 50% of that, then you're only going to have 500 health left. But if you have 5,000 health, 50% of that is 2,500 health. So even though that you're going to be dropping low on health on champions that build a lot of, tank items and build a lot of bruiser items that give you HP, even if you drop low on health, you're still going to have a lot of health to play with. Whereas if you're an AD carry and if you drop low on health like 50%, probably all it takes is one auto attack or one, row of abilities, and then you're not going to be able to do any damage. You're just going to be dead. So you actually get no benefits at all from Last Stand. So again, Coup De Grace for champions that want to be, be an assassin or deal a lot of damage like AD carries. Giant Slayer you take if you're against champions like bruisers and tanks, and Last Stand take if you are playing a bruiser or tank that you still want to deal damage, but also you feel like you're going to go low on health, and you get the full benefit from Last Stand. Now, when we get down to the third row for the precision tree, or the third selection for the precision tree, this is where things get a little bit complicated, but I'm going to explain it to you as simple but as in depth as possible, so you can understand what best legend rune it is to take when you select the precision tree. So all of these legend runes work a little bit differently. There's one similarity with all of them, where all of them you gain 1% per stack you get, whether you get champion takedowns, minions, or monster kills. Now you can switch and mix and match in between, with these legend things. So you don't have to take down a certain number of monsters to get the most stacks, or a certain number of champions. You can mix and match. So you can take down monsters, then you can take down champions, and then you can take down minions. So there's many different ways that you can play with these legend runes. Now, with only getting 1% per stack, it does mean that some of these legend runes take a lot longer to stack than others. For example, Bloodline, you start off with 1% Omnivamp and you gain an additional 7% Omnivamp. So that you only need 6 stacks. Legend Tenacity, for example, you start off with 3% Tenacity and you go up to 15% Tenacity. So that's 12 stacks. And Legend Alacrity, you start off with 3% attack speed and you go up to 20% attack speed, which is 17 stacks. So Bloodline, for example, takes a lot quicker to stack than Alacrity or Tenacity, for example. Now, I kind of did like a little bit of a table, because I went into so much detail with these legend runes, because I was thinking, how many monsters do I need to take down? How many champions do I need to take down? And how many minions do I need to take down? But as I was doing these tests, I realized that there were 2 actually different versions of these stacks. There was the ×1, which is like how quick it basically takes to get a stack. There was a ×1 option, but then there were some times that I was timesing it by 1.5. So I actually needed half more than the first time to actually get a stack on something like Legend Bloodline. I'm going to show you the table quickly. You can see here I have Alacrity, Tenacity, and Bloodline, each with 1% per stack, each with 17 stacks. But you can see some of them, they start off with 1 times, and some of them start off with 1.5 times. And for example, like Legend Bloodline, you start off accelerated, so you get the first stack a lot quicker, but then every single stack afterwards is going to take like half times more, or 0.5 times more. Something like Legend Alacrity, it takes longer to get your first stack, but then it takes quicker, then it takes longer, then it takes quicker, then it takes longer. So each of the different runes works differently. But you're probably asking me, Stuart, how does this relate to champions, monsters, and minions? But I'm going to explain that now. So for example, champion kills. So at the start of the game for Legend Bloodline, for example, if you get 2 champion kills, if you get no monster takedowns, no minion takedowns, just 2 champion kills, you gain that ×1 stack. But to gain ×1.5 stack, as you can imagine, you just times 2 by 1.5. Half of 2 is 1. You add that on, boom, you get 3. So 3 kills is the ×1.5. So like Bloodline, for example, you need 2 kills, then 3 kills, then 3 kills, then 3 kills. Or Tenacity, you need 2 kills, then 3 kills, then 2 kills, then 3 kills, and so on and so forth. For jungle monsters, there's a few little interesting things to note. Scuttle crabs and epic monsters do count towards your legend stacks. I tested this out and it does work, and especially scuttle crabs as well. Scuttle crabs was like the easiest thing to test this on, because I was like, cool, 3 scuttle crab kills are, you know, the 1 times, and then, you know, you just times that one by 1.5. You're just like, cool, I could just take a few more scuttle crabs and then I get my next time. So again, there's a few different ways you could test this. Again, these are not the exact numbers because Wild Rift have not given us the exact numbers of how many points you get per stack. But again, I tried to make this as simple as possible. So yeah, jungle monsters, scuttle crabs, and epic monsters do count. Now, as it goes for like a full clear in the jungle, say for example you was to start the game with Legend Bloodline and you do a full jungle clear, that will give you 1 stack of Bloodline. So that counts as ×1 basically. So ×1 is just a full jungle clear. That's clearing every single camp with every single monster. Again, each individual monster, even the little crabs and the little raptors, will count towards points to give you your legend stacks. So I did a full jungle clear with Bloodline and I got 1 stack. Now with that 1.5 times, I then did it again with Bloodline. I went around the whole jungle and I cleared through the whole jungle again. I didn't get it, but then I did a half clear, so I did the top side, so I did Gromp, Walls, and Blue Buff, and then I got another stack of Bloodline. So with jungle, most of the time you want to clear, you know, your first clear is going to be your 1 times, and 1.5 clear is going to be your 1.5 times. So things like Alacrity in the jungle, for example, you're not actually going to get with that first jungle clear. You're actually going to have to wait a little bit and do it that way. Obviously things like scuttle crab and jungle monsters and minions, etc. do count. So you could do, for example, 1 full clear and then you can go get scuttle crab. That will give you more stacks. Maybe go for a kill. That will give you a stack, and that will give you points, sorry. And then you'll be able to get your first stack for Alacrity or your second stack of Bloodline a lot quicker. Again, you can mix and match. You don't have to just do one thing with these legend runes. And as for minions, for example, the cannon minion does count towards more stacks. That is one important thing to know. If you kill and last hit the cannon minion, that will count towards more stacks than a melee minion and also a range minion. Now, roughly, again, it's very difficult to test, so I did this as quick as I could, or not as quick, but as in-depth as I could. Roughly, it takes about 3 waves to get your 1 times, and it takes about roughly 4.5 ways to get your 1.5 times. Again, it's very difficult to test because each mini wave is different. Some spawn 1 cannon, some spawn no cannons, some spawn 2 cannon minions. So I think it's a little bit difficult to kind of test. So roughly you can get like, 2 or 3 stacks of, say for example, Legend Bloodline before the first Drake spawns. That's kind of how you can relate it if you really want to. So you can get like, roughly 2 or 3 stacks of Bloodline, of Alacrity, and of Tenacity before that first Drake spawns a few minutes into the game. But that's pretty much everything with the legend runes. Again, it was very, very difficult to test. And again, these are not going to be 100% accurate. No one's going to know the exact numbers. But again, I'm trying to make this as simple as possible for you. And I'm trying to make it as in-depth as possible so you understand how the runes works. But the biggest takeaways to take with legend runes is that all of them are different. Some of them will take longer to stack, like Legend Alacrity and Legend Tenacity, but it really depends on what champions you're playing and what champions you're against. You know, Legend Alacrity is really for the early game. If you want to get a big boost of attack speed in the early game and still scale with attack speed. Legend Bloodline is if you want to get more Omnivamp and more sustain, more healing. And then Legend Tenacity is if you're against champions that have any crowd control. So things like knockups, you know, the immobilizing effects that what I had before, and also you gain slow resists. That's everything for today's episode around the precision runes for Wild Rift patch 4.3. Over the next few days, I'll be covering all the different runes over all the different minor rune pages, like the resolve runes, inspiration runes, and domination runes. So make sure you keep an eye out on that one. Or if you want to watch all the videos, you can check out the playlist down below. As always, take care of yourselves, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next Wilder video. Peace.